Do Bitcoin bulls have what it takes to make another run to test $12,000, or have the bears stepped in with the upper hand, potentially bringing Bitcoin down to the 9,000s? What's up, everyone? Thanks for coming by Crypto Capital Venture. Hit that subscribe on the way in if you're not a subscriber, and let's jump into the video. There it is. The move from the other day, $12,000 or so, and here we sit, 11,000 and change. Bitcoin, make up your mind. Will it be 12,000 again, or will it be the 9,000s? So as we know, Bitcoin has cooled off from that swing high, and which is good. Currently testing this yellow trend line, which we've talked about. That's a long-term upper trend line going all the way back to the bull market high, 2017. Want to start here really just to remind you all of what Bitcoin has achieved most recently, this breakthrough in this last weekly candle through the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders, this very bullish long-term pattern going back to October 2019. So we must remember, now the neckline currently sits at 10,500. We've been talking about it. This is a very key support area for Bitcoin if it continues to the downside. So moving on, I do want to get this out of the way. There are people tracking this head and shoulders on the 6-hour chart. You see it with a breakout target, $10,100. So this is another target that we have to keep in mind. So we have the 10,500. That's the weekly neckline of the inverse head and shoulders, potential throwback to that area. And then we have a target out of this head and shoulders to 10,100. So to really bring all of this together, I want to go to this chart. This is a daily, and we're going to talk about a couple things here. And these are all of the support areas that you could possibly look for. And if we fall below this channel, this confluent area, which is basically illustrated by this square or rectangle I have here, if we fall below that, then we can start maybe talking a little bit more bearish. But right now, Bitcoin is looking healthy, and throwbacks, consolidation phases are very important, especially when you look at something like the weekly. We go over here on the weekly RSI. It needs to cool down. You see that little green paintbrush. Let me get that out of the way. It needs to come down a little bit, right? It doesn't need to, but it's healthy when it does, I should say. So back to this chart. Let's talk about a few things. Number one, inverse head and shoulders. That's the $10,500 neckline on this daily. If Bitcoin comes down to that area, it's not a bad thing, right? And I actually was talking about it in this video as we were breaking like $12,000. I started that video to talk about it. And during the video, the flash crash began happening. And right before that, I was talking about a $10,500 throwback. And you can see we wicked there once, and to trickle back down there again, in my opinion, is not bearish. It is not a bad thing. But we would look for support there. The other thing is the 50 moving average down here on the daily chart, right around $9,600 or so. Another area that I was talking about in that video towards the beginning, which is if you zoom out on the daily chart, that is what Bitcoin does, especially when overextended from that blue line, even all the way back here in this bull market, right? It gets thrown back, it gets pulled back to the 50 moving average all the time. It's just what it does. And so we were beginning to get a little overextended here on the daily chart. And so that's why I was discussing a potential pullback to the 50 moving average. So again, $9,600, not a bad area. And then lastly, Fibonacci retracement, which is the swing low. Let me kind of zoom out a little bit. There we go. Swing low on the right shoulder to the swing high to 12,000 or so that we had. And then we have confluent with that 50-day moving average, the 96, is our Fibonacci channel, the 618 to 786, $9,500 to 10,008. So really, $10,500 to $9,500, a very healthy area if Bitcoin were to revisit. I know that sounds dramatic, being we're above 11,000 right now, especially sub $10,000. I know that's triggering a lot of you out there while I'm doing this video, but again, that channel is a healthy channel for consolidation. Now, you might be saying, Dan, well, the neckline of this bullish inverse head and shoulder needs to hold, doesn't it? Like, we can't break below the 10,500. So we want to see it hold. Yes, right? We look for support in that area. But what we really want to make sure that doesn't break is the right shoulder swing low. That is the area we don't want to see. That's $8,800. If we start even approaching that area, then you might hear a little bit of a different tone from me. But for now, what I'm really watching is this channel right here, $10,005 to $9,500. And just for reference, if we go back over to this head and shoulders, this neckline here, we're very close to it, really is right around $11,000 or so. So in the immediate future, if you must watch the hourly and really just zoom in on the charts, $11,000 is a good area to watch because we could totally see support here. This head and shoulders doesn't have to complete. We don't have to get confirmation with a breakthrough 11,000. We could see support. Speaking of that, on the hourly, and actually this was the 6 hour. This is the hourly. So I talked about after we had this huge dip, right, the other day, we need structure. Well, this is what it looks like. We're getting some structure. We originally had on the hourly symmetrical triangle. Bitcoin broke out of. We pretty much hit its target right here, right around 11.4, 11.5 or so. We fell into a new pattern, and I don't always do hourly charts, but actually I most often never do hourly charts, but we're looking for structure, and I know a lot of people are watching the charts, and this is where we find structure. And this small zoomed in structure turns into midterm structure if we watch it patiently enough. So here we have the falling wedge with a potential target of around 11,005-ish again, right? And right now we're just trading right here at the bottom. So right now we wait and we look. Here's that $11,000 area down here. That's the neckline of the head and shoulders that we just talked about. So $11,000 I think is a key area for Bitcoin to watch for in terms of very short-term support, like tonight if you're watching this video and going into tomorrow morning. And then a breakout to the upside is what could lead us to basically put in higher highs and higher lows, because again, I mentioned we have these smaller patterns that potentially could lead us into midterm patterns, and this is potentially what it could look like, right? This is very speculative. We can put more trend lines. We have this swing low here to what's forming now. We potentially have a rising wedge, and I will say this, and it's more of a rising channel. Rising channels do not always have to be bearish. And actually in Bitcoin, if you look historically, when you get these series of higher highs and higher lows, they are oftentimes setups for breakouts for Bitcoin. In this case, if Bitcoin managed to break through this upper trend line here to its target 11.5, could quickly be testing the upper trend line here of this rising wedge. A breakout target out of this is right around 12,000. Maybe even a little bit more. So yes, we could easily be testing 12,000 once again. The bulls step in, and it can happen quick. So these are the areas we're looking for. You have a little resistance straight away, right around 11,002 to break out of this first pattern, and then support down here 11,000. We will see what happens. The bottom trend line here, and also the neckline of this head and shoulders. So a lot going on in these zoomed in charts. Really curious to know what you all think will happen next. These are my thoughts. And my thoughts are simply this: be prepared, everybody, for every scenario. Look at the scenarios that we just talked about. These targets can happen very quickly. So the question is, with where you are in your portfolio, are you comfortable with those scenarios? That's very simple. No YouTuber, nobody will tell you what's going to happen next. However, you have all the data to be prepared for what does happen next. So I appreciate you cruising by. I will see you all in the next video. If you're here, not a subscriber, hit the subscribe. Have an awesome night, and God bless.